Hey, Friendo, Steve here.
Hey, Larson.
Welcome back to Going in Raw Count Out. That's right, no pay-per-view this weekend. So, we're going to do a count out as our 5th episode of the week.
Yeah.
A lot of people like that count out. They're like, Steven Larson, we don't like when you don't do count out. We're like, nah, we're doing count out. So here we are. And given Larson that, of course, we are enmeshed in one of the most epic stories of all time involving an epic faction, the Bloodline storyline. Figured it'd be a good time to update our top 10 factions list. Now, we did this in past, yes?
Yeah, October 2017, so nearly 6 years ago. We've had quite a few factions of note that have been created. Since then. Can't talk right now for some reason.
Yeah.
So we thought it was a good time to revisit the list.
Yeah.
Now, not all those factions that were birthed post October 2017 made this list. However, we will mention some honorable mentions.
Yeah.
After the list, and we'll talk about some of them.
I'm actually kind of more geeked out to talk about the honorable mentions because a lot of these factions on this list. Yeah, there's been some. There's actually been some amount of retrospective sort of learning about other factions that I didn't really know about too much in 2017 and shuffling them up or maybe even down in our top 10. But yeah, man, our honorable mentions. Oh boy, that's a packed list.
This could easily be a top 20.
Oh, easily. Absolutely. Maybe we should do that at some point. Do one of those 2-hour-long videos like Cultaholic does, man.
Oh, that sounds like a lot of work, man.
Yeah, well, I don't want to do that. Let's just get into it. Number 10.
10.
The Corporation. That's right. God, this is a big one. Of course, Vince McMahon, the higher power.
This is pre-higher power.
We're not doing the corporate ministry. This should be the corporate ministry. Oh, yeah.
I suppose we could. The one kind of led into the other. So it's all kind of one huge thing. I like the corporation because this was obviously in a direct response to Stone Cold, McMahon, finding that he can't keep the title off Stone Cold by himself, created a faction led by The Rock. Of course, this faction with birth at the greatest pay-per-view of all time, talking about Survivor Series 98.
Right.
When he had that turn by The Rock, who was on the verge of a huge babyface turn. Nah.
Oh, man, yeah.
Turned heel at the end of the show, aligning himself with Vince, forming the corporation.
Okay, so, were there other members of the corporation before? Because, my timeline is kind of muddy. I thought we were going to talk about when there's, 20 people, including, Ken Shamrock and Undertaker and Kane and all those people. That's the corporate ministry. Midian, Viscera.
Yeah. I felt like the corporate ministry was just huge and unwieldy, and the reveal of Vince as the higher power was kind of lame.
That's why I was kind of surprised. You had it a little bit, and we can talk about, Larson initiated the list, and then I rearranged it.
So here's what, at number 10, I like having a name that'll grab the viewer.
Oh, yeah,
Be like, they put, that's a pretty noteworthy name.
See,
so we put some obscure name, we lose them immediately, No,
I like this. I like having a number 10 where you and I have no idea what the other one is thinking. Exactly. I think you mean corporate ministry, and you're like, no, corporation. It's just The Rock.
It's The Rock? No, it's not just The Rock, because if it was just The Rock and Vince, that's not a faction. That's a tag team. It was The Rock, it was Shane, it was Vince, it was Boss Man, and it was Ken Shamrock. Okay. And at one point...
What was Shamrock's role in the corporation?
I'm sure he was the most dangerous man in the corporation.
Every faction needs a world's most dangerous man.
Exactly. So at one point you had The Rock as champ.
Yeah.
You had Shamrock as Intercontinental Champion. And then you had Boss Man as Hardcore Champ. And I think for a brief window, Boss Man and Shamrock had the tag titles as well.
Really? Oh my God, that's the most dominant faction of all time. Wow.
Now you understand why they're on the list.
Yeah, that's a great list there. But I'll do one more than that. You have those 3 dominant champions. Then you add the Undertaker, Kane, Viscera, Midian, Naked Midian. Man, yeah, you up the game with the core. And on top of that, how can we forget the higher power? It's going to be Christopher Daniels, and it was just Vince McMahon.
It was just Vince under the cloak.
The cloak.
But here's the thing: there was other members. The group expanded once you get into later in 1998 and early 99.
Yeah.
You got Test joins.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
In December. Kane joins in December. China in January of 99.
Yeah.
Big Show, of course, upon his debut at St. Valentine's Massacre, February 14th, 99. Then Triple H joined like right before the corporate ministry was a thing.
I remember feeling, because Triple H even back then was my guy, and I was upset at WrestleMania 15 when he, he helped China, then him and China turned on X-Pac and joined Shane in the corporation, and then for a couple weeks, it felt like he was a big nothing. He was just when the corporate ministry came together. I remember him just looking like another dude in the middle of the ring. I'm like, man, are they burying my dude Triple H? And then no, he came into his own. At some point, I think he sort of left the corporate ministry, became his own dude or something like that. But then, ironically, he became part of, I guess, what do they call him? The Authority. Oh, that's right, he was the Authority.
Well, before that was the McMahon Helmsley era.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that sort of came out of the corporate.
It kind of did. It kind of did. It all kind of flows one to the other.
Yeah. What a mess. I want to talk about this next one. Can we hop into number 9, please?
Let's go to number 9. Then 9.
The Heenan family. So, like, pound for pound, like member for member, like number 1, there was like 1 million people in the entirety of the Heenan family,
and probably because this faction in one form or another was active for nearly 20 years. 2, 3, 4
across 4 promotions.
Yeah,
the AWA, the NWA Georgia, the WWA, and then WWF.
Yeah.
Now known as WWE. But my goodness, look at the names in this. Number 1, first and foremost, probably the most prominent name, Lex Luger, was in the Heenan family. Ric Flair, of course, was in it. Rick Rude was in it. The Red Rooster was in it. All those alliterative R names. Paul Orndorff was in it. Mr. Wonderful himself. Mr. Perfect. So you had both Mr. Perfect and Mr. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Check this out.
They were a tag team? If not, that was a really missed opportunity, wasn't it?
Right? They really should have been.
I think by that time, Orndorff, or the Mr. Perfect was in WWF. Orndorff was in WCW. So
yeah, I think you're right.
Paths really crossed.
I think you're right about that.
Even if we go back further, let's go to the AWA.
The Bloodline was in this. Haku and Tom of the Islanders were in this.
Yeah. You got Nick Bockwinkel. One of the greatest wrestlers in AWA history.
Oh, yeah.
Stan Hansen,
yeah.
Ken Patera.
Yeah.
Bobby Duncombe.
Sergeant Slaughter was in under the name Super Destroyer Mark II.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at Wikipedia right now. I think you.
Yeah, exactly. Here's what I remember most.
Mr. Saito, is he the inventor of the Saito suplex?
It's a good question. Click the link, Steve, and find out. Here's what I remember most about the Heenan family, though. When I was watching wrestling in mid to late 80s, of course, you had WrestleMania 1, the main event of that, Hogan, Mr. T teaming up against Piper and Cowboy Bob. Or no, Orndorff, sorry. And after that period, it was all about Heenan trying to get the belt off Hogan. So he had King Kong Bundy at WrestleMania 2. And then perhaps most famously, Andre the Giant at Mania 3.
Yeah, that was the big deal right there.
That was a massive deal. And it wasn't like Heenan failed, Heenan family done. No, they kept going.
Expansion,
moving people in and out of the roster.
Big John Studd, the Brain Busters, Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard.
Let's count the number of Hall of Famers.
Oh, man.
Rick Rude, Hall of Famer. Ric Flair, Hall of Famer. Mr. Perfect, Hall of Famer. Somehow Lex Luger's not a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, that's weird. He should be.
That is weird. I know.
They're going to do the thing till they wait till he passes, probably. That's annoying. Don't do that. Do it when he's alive. Celebrate the man now.
Exactly. Harley Race. Arn and Tully.
Yeah.
Of course, they're Hall of Famers as members of the Horsemen. Of course, Andre the Giant. Let's see who else here that I know for sure are Hall of Famers. I'm sure Ernie Ladd, Hall of Famer.
Oh, yeah.
Stan Hansen, I believe, is in the Hall of Fame.
I think Stan Hansen's there, yeah.
I think Nick Bockwinkel maybe
Cowboy Bob's there, isn't he?
Yeah, I think Cowboy Bob is too. So I didn't keep track of how many, but that's at least 10 Hall of Famers. Big John Studd, I think, is in the Hall of Fame. Maybe not. I don't remember. Anyways, a lot of Hall of Famers in the Heenan family, and they were like the heel group in WWE basically from the mid 80s to the mid 90s.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And of course they had probably the most charismatic manager in the history of sports entertainment, Bobby the Brain Heenan, leading up his own family. And it looks like they're sort of, I like that Don Callis is sort of paying homage to the idea of a family faction now in AEW with the Don Callis family. I think that's pretty awesome, man.
Yeah, it is. I picked up on that as well, and that's a cool nod to Heenan and the impact that he left on the wrestling business, leading the Heenan family. Man, look at these! Wow, look at these champions here, former members of the Heenan family. Bockwinkel, AWA champ, 4 times member of Heenan family.
Now this
Andre champion.
This also it can't be sort of overlooked as well. The counter to this. According to this Wikipedia entry, the Wrestling Observer newsletter doled out a lot of nefarious prizes to various members of the Heenan family, including, this is so rude. I'm surprised they don't have this anymore. I'm not surprised because it's horrible. 1989, Andre the Giant won the most embarrassing wrestler.
And worst wrestler.
That's out of pocket, as they say. Most overrated, John Studd in 1984.
Well, in 89, Andre got most embarrassing wrestler, worst worked match of the year, and then worst wrestler. But the worst worked match of the year, look what who his opponent was. It was the Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah.
What's Andre supposed to do there?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's 1989. Andre was on
physically he wasn't in good shape then.
Yeah. Man. So yeah, Wrestling Observer really knocking the Heenan family, but you can't.
In that period in WWE, it wasn't like work rate was the most important thing.
Right? Exactly. Yeah.
Work rate really wasn't a thing.
They're like, if Andre the Giant did a Canadian Destroyer, then maybe he would have gotten himself out of that worst wrestling category. A couple super kicks to the Ultimate Warrior, maybe.
Yeah.
Meltzer driver.
There we go. Yeah, Hogan with the Meltzer driver.
Right, exactly.
Andre with the Meltzer driver on Hogan.
Andre the Meltzer driver, exactly. Oh, man. Anyways, let's move on to the next one. Number 8. Bullet Club is in Hot Topic. I personally think that this should have been a lot higher, but I know you had put them at number 10 for that grab that you're talking about, that name that people can grab on. But I think that, you know what? I don't know how many of these groups here. I mean, if it's merch, then it's NWO, and they're pretty high. But in terms of getting into Hot Topic, 2017, 2018, Bullet Club, oh, man, they were real.
They were like the hottest thing in pro wrestling. They really were. And Kenny and the Young Bucks and Hangman and Cody parlayed that popularity and that success of the Bullet Club into forming a different company.
Yeah,
AEW,
dude. Yeah. Yeah.
And that was a fairly seismic night. That was a seismic shift in the wrestling world where it's not exactly like their direct one-to-one competition with WWE because they don't have the money that WWE has or the name value or any of that. But for the first time in a long time, there was a place where wrestlers could go and earn a good living doing the professional wrestling on cable television.
Yeah.
And that was a huge deal. And for a while, I'm talking about All Out 2021, it seemed like the tipping point was almost there when AEW brought in Adam Cole Bebe, another former Bullet Club member. Bryan Danielson, never in the Bullet Club, came to AEW. And it felt like, okay, this could be the tipping point here where momentum is really behind AEW.
Yeah.
Of course, that didn't really happen. But without the popularity of Bullet Club, of the elite in Bullet Club, AEW probably wouldn't be around.
Yeah, no, I think AEW can find its DNA in 3 major acts. Bullet Club, a group that's actually on our honorable mentions, and that's the Undisputed Era, because I think they were sort of the biggest thing in the biggest brand that really inspired AEW. That was NXT. So you have Undisputed Era, you got Bullet Club, and you got CM Punk. I think CM Punk and like Danielson, that sort of Ring of Honor thing really informed what AEW eventually became. But let's get back to Bullet Club. Obviously formed in 2015? Was it 2015?
It was earlier than that.
Oh, was it 2013? Are we at this 10-year anniversary of Bullet Club?
Yes, we are. It's
oh my God!
Is when
yeah, because Finn was already in NXT in 20. Man, my goodness, my time is off.
Yep.
So yeah, 10 years ago. Finn Balor riding the shoulders of Bad Luck Fale Tama Tonga's there, Carl Anderson's there, and then it just blows up from there. You get the Young Bucks, you get their own X Factor, Kenny Omega, and then of course AJ Styles at a certain point, and it was just honestly like between the theme song, that iconic logo, which talk about the perfect way, because obviously Bullet Club was inspired by the NWO, including, hey, let's get a shirt that just can sell. And people can wear anywhere and look super cool. Man, oh man, I don't know who designed that Bullet Club logo, but whoever did should probably get a raise because it's really awesome.
It is.
And it was just cool. It just meant cool. And so much so that like for years, people were like, oh man, we want to see Bullet Club come to WWE. And they had all the ingredients there, and they just never really did it.
Yeah, never really did it.
Speaking of the ingredients, like the OC, yeah.
Of course, they had AJ Styles, former Bullet Club member Finn Balor. Of course, Prince Devitt, founder, first leader of Bullet Club.
Yeah.
And you think of all the people who have been Bullet Club who've gone on to do huge things.
Oh, yeah. Top of the game right now, Cody Rhodes. Prime Bullet Club leader right there.
Well, he was never Bullet Club leader first. Second, if you recall, when he made his debut, he barely had any Bullet Club logos on any of his gear. He had the smallest little ones on his boots.
Subtlety.
Hey, Cody Rhodes is many things. Subtle is not one of them.
Hey. But nobody can deny their influence over the business. It was absolutely, for that period of time, especially upon the ascent of New Japan here in the United States, it was really something special. It was like, oh my God, this person joined Bullet Club. Oh, wow. Well, Adam Cole joined Bullet Club, and he had his own Bullet Club shirt, and it was just his face with Adam Cole and Bullet Club font on it. But yeah, no, man, it was awesome. And then, of course, you get to the point where, like, everybody's joining Bullet Club. You had Scott D'Amore and Jeff Jarrett, probably the two prime members of Bullet Club.
Yeah.
Right there. They joined for a period. And at this point, it's sort of in a rebuilding phase. You can call it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could call it that. They brought in a bunch of LA Dojo.
Yeah.
Gabriel Kidd, Clark
Alex
Connors,
Coughlin. Yeah.
Our members. Of course, you got Chris Bay, Ace Austin, and Impact. But then I don't know. It's kind of in a weird state too because there's that fracture seemingly within Bullet Club. I don't even know if House of Torture is even officially considered Bullet Club still. It's kind of their own thing, but I guess they're still Bullet Club.
I don't know.
So how do you know? Like, I guess right now David Finlay is the official leader.
I think he is. Yeah.
And so, I mean, I've been hearing some good things about what they've been doing with Bullet Club of late. I haven't really been watching as much as I had in the past, but the name alone still has value to it.
It does. It remains to be seen. With like right now, the big thing is United Empire. Because Ospreay's the man, and that faction really has taken, I think, what Bullet Club did and taken it sort of to the next level, albeit without a cool logo. Their color scheme, I don't like the green and I don't like all that stuff.
The green and the gold?
Yeah, I'm not huge into it. But nevertheless, it gets by on big personalities. You got Cobb there. You got the Great O'Khan. And so, I kind of feel like they're like what Bullet Club really was at its peak. It's like, oh man, the guys that we're all paying attention to. Obviously, New Japan has big, hopes for them. Ospreay just won the U.S. title, which is a pretty big deal in New Japan.
Yeah, definitely.
As opposed to Finlay, who has like the never title right now. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, maybe Bullet Club can get back to where, but it's funny because you do have that Bullet Club template that they did, find success with United Empire, using basically. And I have no doubt they'll continue to sort of do that in the future with other factions.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
But yeah, no, just enough awesome things can't be said about Bullet Club. They are real, Larson.
Bullet Club is for real.
All right. Anyways, before we continue, Larson, you want to pay some bills?
Let's do it. Let's take a quick break here and get a word from our sponsor, Morgan and Morgan. Steve.
Yeah.
All this week.
Yeah.
Talking about accidents that I've been in, that I've seen, that I've witnessed.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm sure if you really put some thought into it, if you really think about it, you could probably think of a couple accidents you've been in as well, some mishaps, something like that.
No, I mean, one time I saw one of my friends actually get run over by like a 4-wheeler driven by like an 8-year-old. But beyond that, no, none to me. I've only seen some.
None to you, you said?
Yeah, absolutely none to me.
Are you sure about that? Would you care to reconsider?
No.
You sure?
I'm positive. What's your point?
I'm going to say some words, and you tell me what you think about when I say those words. Car.
Yeah. Okay.
Stop sign.
Okay.
Burrito.
Okay, number one, it wasn't a stop sign. It was a light pole. Wait, you tricked me.
What?
Nothing. What's your point, Larson?
My point is that accidents can, and they do happen to anyone at any time, and you can be injured due to those accidents. Thankfully, I've never been hurt doing any of the accidents or mishaps I've been involved in or witnessed. But if you're ever injured, you can check out America's largest injury law firm with over 100 offices nationwide, Morgan & Morgan. Morgan & Morgan has a proven track record of fighting to get you full and fair compensation. Listen to this, Steve. They've recovered more than $15 billion for their clients.
Oh, my goodness. And Morgan & Morgan has made it easy to submit a claim. It's more like ordering takeout than hiring a lawyer. In 8 clicks or less, you can submit a claim, and you can do it without having to get off your couch. So if you're ever injured, you can check out Morgan & Morgan. Their fee is free unless they win. For more information, go to forthepeople.com/raw or dial pound law. That's pound 529 from your cell phone.
That's forthepeople.com/raw or pound law, pound 529 from your cell. This is a paid advertisement.
All right, continuing on, let's get to number 7.
7.
The Shield.
Now, do you remember what each letter was in the theme?
Sierra, Hotel, India, Echo, Ligma, D's. Is it Lima? Lima Delta? Lima Delta.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Ligma D's. That's what it is.
No, I don't think that's what it is, Steve.
So here's a hot take for you, Larson.
Ooh, give it to me.
So the Shield is an epically decorated trio. Right? Moxley, multiple-time world champion across multiple promotions.
Yes.
Roman Reigns, probably the greatest champion of our current generation. Seth Rollins, like the 1B to that 1A.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like the Shield as a group is less than the sum of its parts. Like, they were thrown together in a high-profile way because WWE knew they were going to be 3 big major solo acts. But, like, they outgrew the faction so quickly that when they finally broke up, it was almost a sigh of relief. Like, okay, finally we get Dean Ambrose like the way we kind of had heard about Dean Ambrose before he showed up.
But then we never really got that Dean Ambrose in WWE.
No, but we did in AEW, and that was sort of, and I'll be honest, even in WWE, Dean Ambrose's character after the Shield was just a lot more interesting than even the Shield version was. It was just 3 guys in SWAT gear. And yeah, it wasn't until they broke up. It's not like I don't really think the faction served a purpose.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know that it like elevated them. I think they did that, you know?
You mean they elevated the Shield as opposed to the Shield elevating them?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. That's a weird concept maybe, but
it is a strange concept because I don't know.
There was nothing inherently about the Shield. Like, it was, number one, it didn't even make sense. The Shield, they wore SWAT gear. They were supposed to be like a SWAT team.
Oh, no, the whole idea. I mean, they were basically a private security force for CM Punk upon their
Hounds of Justice. What?
Here's the thing that I think, like the packaging, the theme was solid. The packaging, whether you like the SWAT gear or not, was unique. And I
hated the SWAT gear.
Apart from Boss Man wearing that in the Attitude Era. It was their thing. And they came in through the crowd, and that was cool.
And the masks were kind of cool, yeah.
And the way, like, they'd have, like, the little camcorder and shoot the promos that way, that was cool.
Yeah, I hated that because it just looks so cheesy, but the idea was cool. You're absolutely right.
It was something different, and it actually motivated the camera because it was like, hey, we have something to say. We're going to pick up our little Sony Handycam, and we're going to drop a promo.
Totally true, yeah.
There's aspects of the presentation of the Shield that I feel like, especially for 3 completely unknown commodities on the main roster, the way I know at first they debuted in turtlenecks, which is unless Christian Cage is wearing it. It's not like you're going to take anybody seriously in wrestling and wearing a turtleneck. Apart from Christian Cage these days. The the way they were presented,
yeah,
made him feel like stars immediately.
Made him feel like a big deal. You could tell WWE really liked them. Yeah,
thrust immediately into the A story with CM Punk.
Yeah,
and in a year and a half, they were unknowns to being some of the most popular wrestlers in the company. And I think that says something for their collective talents together.
Yeah.
Like I was watching the other day, and I remember watching this live, and this exact moment I started to become a Seth Rollins fan. It was a match against the Wyatts. Tag match. It was Seth and Roman against Luke Harper and Eric Rowan. And there's a spot where Seth sends Luke Harper out of the ring and Rowan on the other side. He does a tope on one of them, lands on his feet, gets back in the ring, does a tope on the other side, lands on his feet. And they should cut to Roman, and even Roman is impressed by what Seth just did there.
That was one of those wrestling moments that was like, oh shit, they can do that? Yeah. I think I remember that. Yeah.
It blew my mind when I saw that, because at that moment, it's like, apart from like someone like Rob Van Dam, I'd never seen anybody do something like that before.
Yeah, right.
So I get your point, but I think a lot of that is, looking back at from what we know of the members of the Shield today, but at the time when they were complete unknowns, unless you watch NXT, which we didn't, so they were complete unknowns.
Even NXT, like the only person that really was of prominence was Seth. Yeah.
I think putting them together, and at the time, Seth wasn't much of a promo guy.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
Ambrose made up for that.
And it did allow them to acclimate to television, and to being out there in the crowds and promos, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, I agree with that. I just think like when you think of like, I don't know, I guess you can never really relive the old days, but the idea of like, oh, the Shield getting back together after a certain point, it was like, I don't want to see them back together. Like that just doesn't seem like they're all so much more than the Shield was.
Yeah, because it felt like you run the risk of the Shield when they broke up, when Seth broke them up, were arguably at the peak of their popularity.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And you don't want three performers who are still so vital and have so much more to do in the world of professional wrestling get back together and kind of become a nostalgia act.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
Don't want that to happen, because you want to see Ambrose doing new and interesting stuff, and Seth doing new and interesting stuff, and Roman doing new and interesting stuff. And if the idea is like, well, we're going to put them back together, do the Shield thing again, well, then they're doing the Shield thing again, and that's just kind of rooted in nostalgia as opposed to doing something new and vital.
Yeah.
And interesting. And look what they're doing now. New and vital, interesting stuff.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah. Mox with all those like things coming
skewers in his head. Yeah.
Skewers. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And Roman evolving into the tribal chief. And
I do appreciate though that it's like, the Shield was the genesis for Roman's, trauma. Yeah. And the betrayal and all that. But yeah, I don't know. Just thought it'd be some fun fodder for conversation. Of course, they're up here at number 7. They could be up there at number 1 for all their accolades.
I mean, that's what WWE has them. I think they have them top faction in WWE history.
I mean, honestly, if you're judging by like what the individual members have done, like WWE should have pinned like the Dangerous Alliance at number 1. My goodness.
Yeah, it was a good faction too.
Just because it had Stone Cold Steve Austin. Anyways, let's move on here to number 6. The New Day. Now, this is the faction here that is more than the sum of their parts. And we sort of see that borne out when any combination of them exists without one of them. They're so much better together as a group. You think about poor Big E having to celebrate his world title thing by himself, whereas Kofi got to celebrate with the other two guys, and it's just so much more of a big moment. They are so much better. That brotherhood is so strong because of the longevity, the journey, the story, where they came from, the chemistry. Their ambition was as a faction, not as solo artists.
Well, I think their ambition was achieving success as a group and not feeling the need to be a group to necessitate the story of them becoming singles wrestlers. Which is historically, you're a faction. You have the breakup of the faction, and then people go on to pursue singles endeavors. And seemingly from the get-go, Kofi, Xavier, Big E had no interest in that. They didn't want to break up.
The group elevates the stars, yeah.
And the chemistry you mentioned, the bond the three of them have, is absolutely incredible. and to see that chemistry and that bond when they're together, the three of them especially are together, just come through the TV is absolutely incredible. I mean, they're three super charismatic performers. All of them are great talkers. All of them are good wrestlers. They tell incredible stories in the ring. They're one of the best tag teams in the history of WWE. You could make the case they are the best. It's them or the Usos.
Sure, yeah.
Kofi, WWE champion. Big E, WWE champion. Xavier Woods, King of the Ring. Even though they are one of the most accomplished tag teams in WWE history, they've all achieved great success as singles wrestlers, as members of the faction. And that's not terribly common in the world of professional wrestling.
That is true, and they've done it all sticking together. And I can't wait to, because I think Kofi's injured right now, isn't he? So, and I don't know, we're still sort of waiting on, what Big E's future holds for him. But it was a bummer. I'm really looking forward to seeing what this new, if Big E is able to and wants to be on television again with the New Day, it'll be very interesting. All of them in the same place again under this new management, under this new style of Vince and Triple H working together. What is done with them, because it's a completely different landscape now than it was even a year ago when Big E had his injury. And it'll be a year and 4 months now. And and you can't wait. I can't wait. I hope that we get to experience a New Day again, because it'd be kind of a shame if it sort of fizzled out like that. Yeah, it would be. It would be great to see, assuming he's 100% healthy. Big E back on our televisions. Even if he can't wrestle, if he wants to, that is, if he wants to be involved still in WWE programming in some capacity. I miss Big E a lot. Oh, me too. Absolutely. Same. Yeah. Let's move on to number 5. The Four Horsemen. Now, I know they probably could have been higher, but let's be honest. This is like a bunch of dudes kind of come off as 80s dads, and but 80s dads with money, and 80s dads with money and horny, and it's not like they really ran roughshod over the WWE. They were down there in the indie leagues there in the NWA. Oh wow, the scrub leagues. They're in the Jim Crockett Promotions scrub leagues, Larson. I'll say this: the Four Horsemen set kind of the template of what a modern faction kind of is, though. 100% true. You got the main event guy, you got Flair, you got the tag team, first Arn and Ole, then Arn and Tully. Yeah. And then for the Horsemen, especially in their prime era, then you had the rotating cast of the fourth dude. It was, yeah. If they could trick Sting into being the Horseman a little bit, it was Sting. Come on in, Sting. And then they'd turn on him. Yeah. Luger was there for a while. Sid. Barry Windham. Yep. Paul Roma. Was Martel in there too, or am I just thinking of Paul Roma? I think you're thinking of Paul Roma. I don't believe Rick Martel. But that fourth spot was a lot of people filled it. Yeah, right. It was like the Shemp spot. Kind of was. Well, that was just Shemp, I guess. It's like Shemp, the Curly spot, because there was a bunch of Curlies. There you go. Yeah. Look, dude, I respect it. Look, they're number 5. They're at number 5. And you can look at the Horsemen, and like you said, they were the template for how factions are done. They were, the thing in Jim Crockett Promotions in the NWA. Unfortunately, the NWO ran them out of town once they became a thing. We're going to talk about them here in a moment. Oh, the NWO just completely and utterly destroyed the Four Horsemen at every opportunity. Yeah, they really did. Always in Horseman country, too. And in Horseman country especially. But if it was 1986, it was their territory. But by 1997, 1998, it was no country for old Horsemen, Larson. I guess so. At least here's something that here's a good thing to talk about the Horsemen. Without the Four Horsemen, namely without Sid being in the Four Horsemen, RoboCop would have never been in the world of professional wrestling. But that is absolutely true. Sting had to bring in RoboCop. Why, Steve? To counter the strength of Sid. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So let me ask you this. What is your prime Horseman group? Oh, lineup? Yeah. Okay. It's going to be the one with Luger in it. All right. It's going to be the one with Luger in it. What about you? Do you like ladder horsemen with Malenko and Benoit? And you can take the Benoit stuff after it.
Yeah.
At the time, it was kind of badass, right?
It kind of was. Because it gave an opportunity to wrestlers like Benoit and Malenko, who may not have had the polish on the mic, have Arn and Flair carry that aspect for them. They can just go out and wrestle.
Yeah.
And be involved in a faction that everybody knew of and had that kind of prestige involved with it. That was pretty huge for them.
My favorite horseman was, of course, Kevin Nash dressed up like Arn Anderson.
Oh, that was your favorite. No, come on, the best horseman of the Sid horseman. Come on.
Oh, you're a Sid guy. I'm a Luger guy. You know, we can debate that all day long. Anyways, let's go on to number 4. Something we can't debate.
4.
Four. There you go. Degeneration X. Dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun,
Break
dun,
it
dun,
down.
dun, 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 dun,
Suck
dun, dun,
it. Yeah, one of my favorite wrestling memes on Twitter, Instagram, whatever, is like it's just a video montage of like all the DX guys doing the suck it thing, and the caption is me and my friends in the 6th grade, seeing each other in the middle of the hallway at school. Yeah. Man, DX, that was the shit. It was sort of like prime attitude era. Vince McMahon was like, I need to get away from these shitty vocational gimmicks and these jobber squash match, the template that I've written up here. I need something more edgy. How about this? We'll have Triple H and Shawn Michaels shove their dicks into like little Christmas socks and expose their bare buttocks. How about that? We'll give Michael Cole a wedgie a lot. We'll do that. And thus was born Degeneration X. Yeah.
I mean, in some respects, you can maybe make the case this was WWE's kind of response to the NWO, even though it was about a year afterwards. But really up in the ante in terms of the edginess of the whole NWO thing. I mean, I remember started watching Attitude Era WWE, the Raw after the Montreal Screwjob, because I was like, they did what, the Bret Hart?
Yeah, this is real, yeah.
So I was curious. And so that was my first real introduction to DX. Never forget it.
Yeah.
Never forget it. One of the greatest themes in history of the history of professional wrestling. No, I don't think there's any Tron video package that gets you more hyped up than the DX one in conjunction with the theme.
You got riot footage,
like fast editing, and then like all the imagery, and then they have the overlay.
Yeah,
it's stuff like that I wish they did these days that they just don't do.
Yeah, I know.
You have that now. You have that beat come in, and you have that Tron playing, and it gets you hyped up.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And I can't think of the Tron theme pack combo these days comes anywhere close to that.
Well, Raquel Rodriguez. It felt vital. It felt absolutely vital at the time, and that was one of the major reasons why WWF sort of overtook the cleaner, more corporate feeling WCW, and because it was just cooler. And then, like, for you might see some boobies on the screen if Triple H like points at somebody in the crowd and then she does the thing. But then it was weird because like the DX signs like floated over like the nipple area. It was weird. I don't know how they got that practically to work, but yeah, no, DX was the shit, man. Okay, so settle the debate.
All right.
What was the best version of DX?
Oh, it's Triple H, it's Shawn, it's China.
That's best DX, isn't it? Yeah. That has been not X-Pac showing up and dropping a bitter ex-WCW promo. None of that stuff. I like the New Age Outlaws. Look, I thought that the second version was super entertaining. I sort of don't even rate like what Triple H and Shawn Michaels did in 2006. No. But like the original version, man, they got away with some shit.
They got away with a lot.
They did. Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
A ton.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was always kind of interesting to me though. Like DX was kind of like top popular thing besides Austin, and yet being top popular thing and Shawn Michaels' knack for politicking still didn't. Let me ask you this: if McMahon came to Shawn Michaels and was like, "Hey, pal, you're gonna keep the title at WrestleMania 14. I don't know about this Stone Cold guy." Do you think he would have still retired?
Well, I think his back might have kind of. It's hard to say because you hear about what his mindset was then.
You'd like to believe that the back stuff was true.
You'd like to believe that the back stuff was so bad that his hand would be kind of forced. That he'd have to step away to get his back dealt with because it was jacked up.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know. I don't know.
Yep. I don't know either. Nobody knows. Let's move on to number 3. Evolution is a mystery. Now, back when we did this in 2017, Evolution was probably a little bit lower on the charts.
It wasn't even on the list.
What?
Wasn't even on it.
This is that entry where since then, I have like just sort of in the background come to realize just how fucking epic Evolution really was, given that it was a 2-year story that was planned out, that built 2 major stars and elevated a guy who was already a major star in Triple H. And you had Ric Flair with his last big run, which was legitimate. He was still putting on 5-star matches. The fact that they told that to, I was actually kind of surprised. Relatively recently, we were talking about doing a count out of top storylines in professional wrestling. Yeah. And dude, so many answers, like, cause we put out like a community post.
Yeah.
So many of those answers was Evolution. I was like, holy shit, that's a really good point. Like, remember when Batista gave Triple H a thumbs down? I was like, oh my God.
But that was reference to Orton when he was on Dave's shoulders, and they were like, hey, great, thumbs up, nope, thumbs down.
Yeah, yeah. And if you go back and you look at that as an actual 2-year story, it is goddamn impressive. It really is. And you got to think a lot of that is just Triple H doing what he wants to do, and he was able to do that with the world title. And yeah, just really, really great stuff that elevated the entire group. Both of the future members of that group. So yeah, that's why I went ahead and brought Evolution thumbs up, not thumbs down.
Up to 3.
All the way up to 3. Absolutely.
All the way up to 3. All the way up to 3. You know, it took kind of the template of the Horsemen, where you have people who are indulging in the wealth.
Yeah.
And made it so, in excess. It made it so it wasn't just like, as you mentioned, a bunch of dads and they're having a midlife crisis, you know?
Yeah, right.
I mean, Flair was still there.
Yeah,
and Triple H was there, but you had 2 up-and-coming stars that were getting brought into that world.
Yeah, yeah.
And navigating that whole world. And coming out of it, 2 of the larger stars in the world of professional wrestling at the time, and that's a hell of a story to tell. And for a while there, we gave WB a lot of crap, and I think rightfully, for having trouble building new stars.
Yeah,
you know, a few years ago, and I think they're a little bit better about it now. But you see a story like Evolution, where it seemed the intent was going into it, we're going to make 2 new huge stars to build the company around.
Yeah,
and you look what happened. Orton came out of it. He's got 13 world title reigns.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, after Evolution, Batista. I know he retired or left WB in 2010. You can make the case easily that he is the best wrestler turned actor that we have seen yet.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And I thought when he came back in 2014, it was in a tough spot for him, given that it was the peak of Daniel Bryan's popularity. You know, and I thought the way he handled all that was like an absolute professional.
Yeah, sure.
And even I know a lot of people dump on his last match with Triple H.
Oh,
you could tell they were out there having an absolute blast.
It was really long, but it was a lot of fun. Yeah,
it was a lot of fun, and you know, especially looking back at Batista's career, he seems like a hell of a dude.
Oh yeah, dude, Dave's the best.
And all the respect for Batista, and it's pretty impressive how, you know, going into this. You know, if you look at it initially from the outside, it's like, all right, they're just ripping off the Horsemen. So, you know, it could come off as lackluster, but especially in hindsight and seeing what it did for everybody involved. Yeah, it's an impressive feat to do all that in the span of just 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when it first formed, I was like, oh, Triple H is doing his own. He's doing his own Ric Flair cosplay. It's just the Horsemen. But it's also kind of impressive in that 2 years, they never brought on anybody else. They didn't do the whole switcheroo, people leave, people come, people go. It was those 4 guys. And yeah,
it was focused on just those 4 guys, I know, and they were like no interest in expanding it in any way.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Good stuff. I wonder what would have happened if Jindrak would have remained.
Yeah.
After those first vignettes were filming, Triple H was like, yeah, I don't know. I like this guy's got a great drop kick, but I got this other guy named Randy Orton's got a great drop kick too.
Oh, I don't know about Jindrak's got the best, maybe the best drop kick.
Oh, dude, it's Jindrak, and Jindrak on the Mount Rushmore of drop kicks.
Yeah.
All right, let's dive into number 2, Larson.
2.
For life, the NWO, New World Organization.
New World Order, yes.
Yeah, so man, Bash of the Beach, 1996. Hulk Hogan, the third man brother, Hall and Nash. Then felt kind of awkward having Hogan was then their mouthpiece. And then history was made, Larson.
It was a seismic development in the world of professional wrestling. It was. Hogan turning heel. That alone was huge.
Yep.
And if you listen to Bischoff talk about the philosophy behind the NWO, trying to ground professional wrestling in reality a bit more than it had been historically, in terms of the approach with characters. I mean, sure, WCW still had their fair share of over-the-top gimmicks and vocational gimmicks post NWO. That didn't necessarily change, but the A story for the better part of 3 years was featuring the NWO.
Yeah, it was everything. This is like this is the only faction on this list that evolved so much that it sort of became just its own promotion. Like it had its own pay-per-view. At one point, Kevin Nash has said that it was supposed to be like NWO Nitro or whatever. Like they were on the road to being their own promotion, and it seemed like there were plans in place for that. And then, egos got in the way or whatever happened.
Yeah, whatever got in the way. I always thought that was interesting because then you have this faction that is, large enough to have their own pay-per-views and have their own TV show. The question is then, are faction members wrestling each other?
Well, I think, I think ideally you would have done it like, I'm sure, motorcycle gangs, for example, No Good Nicks would they have their own gang fights to elevate up the ranks. And so that's what these would be.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Thank you for explaining that. That's what I always found curious, was the idea is we're going to have our own NWO branded show. It's like, okay, then everybody in the NWO is featured on the show, and exclusively NWO wrestlers feature on their show, except for the occasional squash match with local enhancement talent.
Yeah, right. Wasn't the actual pay-per-view wasn't sold out? I think it was NWO. They had WCW, right? Yeah.
For the most part, yeah.
But it should have been. No, you're right. It should have just been, hey, this is our pay-per-view. If you're not NWO, then you're not for life, and you're certainly not for this pay-per-view.
Yes. So you can wait till next pay-per-view without a giant toilet bowl thrown,
right,
and be featured on that one.
Right, we're gonna have Virgil versus Buff Bagwell here, to see who can climb up the ranks of the NWO.
There we go. See, there you go. They have a ranking system within the NWO.
They should. They really should. Yeah.
And then if you get to the top, you get to challenge Hogan. But doesn't work for him, brother.
Yeah.
We'll chop you down. Leg drop. Hogan wins.
Well, I'm standing next to a mountain.
Let me ask you this. I asked you this with the Horsemen. At what point should the NWO just stop accepting applications and say, this is a good enough number of members for the faction?
My philosophy, more is better. I say they never should have. I think that they actually had too few members of the NWO.
Wow.
Yep. I think it should have been
the entire roster to be NWO.
Everybody but the Horsemen. And the Horsemen are just that sad crew who's come on, don't you guys remember that? Nobody cares about WCW, old man. And then Scott Steiner puts Flair in the Steiner recliner. We're not even a feud together. I don't know. Man, I remember when you and I were in college watching that shit. I thought the whole Civil War with the Wolfpack, I thought that shit was cool. I liked when Sting joined the Wolfpack. I was hoping DDP would too, like they did at house shows.
Yeah.
And then to me, I'll be honest, it all sucked with the finger poke of doom. I was like, this is lame. This is stupid. I was Team Wolfpack, and now all of a sudden Nash is cool with Hogan and wants Hogan to have the title. From then on, it was stupid. Yeah.
Yeah. It didn't make any sense at all. All.
No.
But imagine if they had stopped accepting applications with, let's say, 6. You'd have Outsiders, Hogan, DiBiase, Giant, Jeff Farmer. NWO Sting, and then 6.
Yeah. Not enough people.
That's a solid crew.
Not enough people. It's a solid crew, but it's not the best crew. The best crew is
then add Scott
Michael
Norton
Wall Street.
No. Add Norton,
Norton.
Macho Man and Dennis Rodman to that faction, and then stop there.
Yeah, there you go. Now we're on the same page.
All right.
Jeff Jarrett should have joined. I guess he was NWO 2000.
Yeah, he was NWO 2000. That's not what we're talking about with this entry, though.
That was fake. Let's go to number 1, Larson. Throw them up.
One.
Well, throwing up the ones. The Bloodline, top faction of all time. Listen, they're a mess right now, obviously.
Oh, absolutely.
But the top tag team of all time. The top champion of the modern era. Maybe even, all things considered, of all time.
Ooh.
Oh yeah. And Paul Heyman. Come on. Top faction. And Sami Zayn too.
Yes. I mean, is there some recency bias in place here?
Sure, of course.
I'd like to think not. Maybe there is. I don't know.
Yes, no.
No. But when you got arguably, I think it's arguable at this point. It's the greatest story told in the history of professional wrestling.
It is. It 1,000%. Even if they crap the finish big time, what wrestling story doesn't? You know what I mean? Like, it's still going to be the best of all time.
I think so. And it's all about this group of people, this faction, this family.
Yeah.
And the interpersonal dynamics between them all. And Roman, who is so traumatized by the betrayal of Seth Rollins nearly a decade prior, surrounds himself with family to feel like he is secure in achieving the success he's dreamed of.
Yep.
That is, and the acceptance that has eluded him throughout his career from the fans. That's why he demands everybody to acknowledge him.
Yeah.
You got the Usos, who were doing great work before this. Great work. Their feud with the New Day was awesome. That Hell in a Cell match they had with the New Day was incredible.
Great.
They call Jay main event Jay Uso. He is a legit main eventer right now. If you put him in a main event at a major pay-per-view, he fit right in.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because of the story. And in less than a year, the way they've brought in Solo and made him a massive player, not just in this story, but in WWE as a whole, is, again, talk about making new stars. The way they've developed Solo and made him into a believable and legitimate force to be reckoned with in WWE has been excellently done. Yeah. And that moment at Money in the Bank when Roman is losing it after the Usos kick out of the double pin, and Solo's looking at Roman like, really?
Yeah, he's like staring at the Usos, and he looks over. He's like, "What the hell? What a mess! You just shit your pants. What's your problem?"
I know. Do I have to take over now? Is like basically what the vibe Solo was giving out. Do I have to take over the bloodline now? I guess I do, kind of. And he starts, he snaps Roman out of it.
Yeah.
Like, I can't really think offhand of a moment that they've bungled.
No, they haven't. No.
All the Sami stuff, like at the point where it felt like, maybe this is kind of spinning its wheels, the story, they bring in Sami Zayn.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And it takes things to a whole nother level.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's and yes, a lot of the reason that it's number one is because the story has been so good, but professional wrestling is about telling stories.
Well, okay, I'll even counter you with this, man.
What?
Bloodline versus 3 members of the NWO, Hogan, Hall, and Nash. Who wins that match?
Well, it depends does Hogan have creative control?
No, it's under current modern day.
Oh, Bloodline go over.
Bloodline wins. Bloodline versus 3 members of Evolution. Any 3 members of Evolution. Bloodline wins.
Yeah,
Bloodline versus DX. Bloodline wins.
Yeah.
Because you know why? Because Bloodline always wins. That's why. Let's talk about these honorable mentions here. Number 1, Inner Circle. I think the longest reigning faction in AEW.
Yeah.
They had LAX.
History,
Then they broke up. But we had to mention something in AEW. Because
part of the Bullet Club was the Elite,
Oh yeah, the Elite. Yeah, we can mention the Elite. Yeah, there you go.
Well, we did in the Bullet Club one. I mean, because I figure the Bullet Club encapsulates the Elite.
There you go.
Yeah.
Judgment Day. Yeah,
they're doing good work now.
They're doing great work right now. Undisputed Era. I think probably I was trying to find a way to kick one of these other factions out.
I was too, because for that period when the Golden Prophecy was fulfilled.
Yeah, it was the top brand in WWE.
Cole, it was Kyle, and it was Roddy.
Where's the lie?
They were wildly entertaining stuff. Some of the best stuff NXT's ever done was that period with Undisputed Era at the top.
If you take time out of the equation, Dangerous Alliance might be like one of the top factions ever. Rick Rude, Steve Austin,
Medusa.
Medusa. Oh my God. Like one of the top women's legends
Paul
ever.
Heyman.
Paul Heyman.
Yeah.
Rick Rude.
Mm-hmm.
Was Pillman in
Arn
there?
Anderson
no,
already?
Pillman wasn't in there. Was Pillman in there?
No.
Who else did you say?
Arn Anderson.
Arn Anderson? Oh my gosh. What a killer
Yeah.
faction that was.
Really was.
The Freebirds.
Of course, they got a whole rule in the world of professional wrestling named after.
Right. Also used to wear the Confederate flag a lot, so we got to move on from this one. Chaos.
Yeah.
Big old New Japan faction.
Yeah. Think of the members of Chaos. Got Okada, Nakamura, Yano.
Yano's a big deal. Yeah.
Yeah. Ospreay formerly. Jay White formerly.
The Hart Foundation.
Yeah. I in hindsight, I'm not the hugest Bret Hart fan in the world.
Oh yeah,
But some of the stuff, especially the stories with the Hart Foundation and Stone Cold.
Oh yeah, the '97 Hart Foundation was awesome. Yeah,
was pretty solid. Was Bret? It was Owen,
Pillman,
Neihart, and Bulldog.
Mm-hmm.
Some good stuff there.
Yeah, no, I agree, dude. I agree. The Wyatt family never really got to where I feel like they should have been. That faction, unfortunately, Vince did not see that faction as the type of thing to elevate everybody. Just Bray Wyatt.
If it was, I mean, Luke Harper probably would have a WrestleMania main event.
Oh yeah,
to his name. But yeah, like upon their debut, especially, there was nothing like it, like the Wyatt family. Nothing.
Yeah.
Although the closest kind of analogy would probably be the next one here, the Ravens flock.
Oh man, again, yeah, these guys probably underachieved far greater than they should have. You think about Raven, Billy Kidman, Lodi, Sign Guy. No, that was the Dudleys. Van Hammer, the tall guy, Reese.
Yeah, Reese. I mean, if they'd kept the flock to Raven,
Saturn,
Perry, Saturn, Kidman, and Sign Guy, and maybe toss either Reese or Van Hammer in there, it would have been fine. It just felt like, we don't know what to do with this guy at a certain point. Let's put him in the flock and put him in like grunge attire and see what happens.
They didn't really know what to do with the flock in general. That was one of the biggest missed opportunities. But really factions like that, guys like that, especially like Raven, it's not often that promotions get those kind of guys right anyways. It's kind of like Bray Wyatt, Yeah, it's just hard to nail that, I guess.
It is hard.
And then we've got the Nation of Domination. You think about who came out of the Nation. Oh my gosh. Obviously The Rock. You had D'Lo and Mark Henry. Oh my goodness. And then the later iteration had Owen Hart for some reason. That was weird.
That was weird.
But no, man, absolutely terrific stuff from the Nation of Domination. Love them. People are always asking, do a new nation. And it's like, nah, man, there's one nation. Under Farouk. Yeah. Anyways, that's going to do it for this episode of Count Out. Let us know what top factions you think are top factions in the comments below. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Until next time, we'll talk to you later.
Goodbye.